Hi, hello, Healthcare Experience Matters podcast listeners. My name is Katie Owens. I am the president and co-founder of Healthcare Experience Foundation. Today's podcast is going to be a little bit different. You've long known and heard Casey Callanan's voice as our podcasting director. And today we're going to do a bit of an editorial where we flip the conversation. Recently, Casey and his wife, Soroya, welcomed into the world their beautiful son and healthy son, Sam. And so oftentimes when it comes to the healthcare experience, we're enlightened when we wear the armband and take on the role of the patient. So Casey, I'm going to turn it over to you for your perspective.
Thanks, Katie. Yes, super excited to welcome our new son, Sam, to the world. And for the purpose of this podcast, I thought it would be exciting to take a pause from our normal schedule of content and kind of talk about my experiences. I'm always the one asking questions to our nation's healthcare leaders. And so today I just thought maybe it would be helpful to our listeners to hear kind of an outsider's perspective when you talk about someone who has never spent professional time in patient care, although I've had the privilege of interviewing not just on this podcast, but in my previous role with the American Urological Association, getting to interview just surgeons, healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, techs, people throughout the spectrum of patient care. And I wanted to just say thank you because the experience was overwhelmingly positive. We had our son come a little early, and he was healthy, and so was mom, which obviously checks the first two most important boxes. But we did end up spending more time in the hospital than we had originally planned for. Actually, we had an experience in two different hospitals. We live in Baltimore, Maryland, and our first experience was actually celebrating my wife's birthday in Washington, D.C., nearby Washington, D.C. And we had thought at about 32 weeks that she was in labor and she was going to have our buddy Sam right there in Washington, D.C. So we spent time at a major academic institution there, first in the ER and then directly to labor and delivery in the triage unit. And everything was amazing there. I mean, just every person that we interacted with was so pleasant, so professional. It was a Saturday, it wasn't like the middle of the night, but we just it felt like every single person on their A game. And I didn't think that was much of a coincidence, but that experience in Washington, D.C. ended up being a scare. Everything was okay. We just needed to get checked out. And then Sam wasn't quite ready to come out yet, but we thought he was. And then on just about 3 weeks ago from the time we're recording this, Sam came early in Baltimore, and it was, again, earlier than we anticipated, but everything was fine. I just wanted to, again, give a shout out to all the different touch points and the labor and delivery nurses and the doctor that delivered Sam were unbelievable in those really vulnerable moments that I had never experienced before, because this was the first child that we've had. The bedside manner was exactly what we needed, calmed us down, reassured us, and Sam was born happy, healthy. And I just wanted to, again, give a shout out to the housekeeping. Came in every day and did great stuff. Were super friendly. And at the end, the head of housekeeping at this hospital here in Baltimore, she came, introduced herself. Everyone, the first word out of their mouth was congratulations, right? Everyone was so happy for us. But housekeeping came, asked us how our experience was and, requested that, we give our feedback in the survey. And then that was awesome. Got to meet the head of housekeeping. And then the food service every day, they would call ahead of time and ask us, what meals we wanted. They were very proactive about the food service, and the food was great. We were so happy with that. In fact, we were a couple of the first, nights home with Sam, we were kind of a little like, oh, now we're on our own for food. We were kind of missing that hospital food. So, that's a shout out to how good that whole experience was. The transport, right? When my wife needed to get transported to different departments, both when we were in DC originally and then in Baltimore a few weeks later when Sam was actually born. Just the nicest people, just, super friendly. It's so important to feel that calming presence. And we felt it with every single person we interacted with. At this hospital, they're kind of famous for having, like many hospitals, a volunteer staff that kind of checks you in at the beginning of the day. And you could tell these people were so excited when they found out, we were going to labor and delivery. And, I would interact with them on a daily basis, coming in and out. Just the nurses, they were like angels running around helping two parents that had never had a child before, just, calm us on anything as someone who's already had a child would think is silly and so basic, like changing a diaper, or like just when you have that newborn, just you feel like, you want to be so delicate, but they were kind of coaching us on everything, just so patient with us on their 12-hour shifts. They would come in at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and write their name on a little whiteboard in our room, so we knew who they were and then who who the tech was with them. And I just have nothing but positive things to say. And it's just a thank you from an outsider who had not really spent, luckily a lot of time in hospitals. And as someone who's, been on the front lines of these podcasts for so long and getting to learn so much, I just was, just super grateful and just wanted to give a little shout out to our experience.
So Casey, just as you always do to not only me when I have the opportunity to be interviewed, but also to all of our guests, we want to give you the opportunity for that last word. Yeah, I mean, I know it's so easy to get jaded in anything that you do professionally. We're all human, and it's tough, but I can't say how much it meant in the most vulnerable part that I've ever had in my life of, that experience with my son coming early and just not knowing 100% that everything was okay. I really just had my whole heart out there on the table and was just like, all right, it's in your hands, and the hospital delivered, both with their bedside manner and with their staff all around the board. And I just don't think it was that hospital on that given day. And I don't think it was just in DC on that given day that, we happen to get lucky. I think a lot of this great stuff is happening around the nation and around the world in healthcare. And, it's easy to lose sight of that. I feel like if you work in it every single day and it's just business as usual, but for someone to come in there with a fresh perspective, like I did, and see it firsthand, it was really important for me to see that and really just re-energize my love for this job, for getting to host this podcast, getting to be a part of the Healthcare Experience Foundation. And I just want to say another, heartfelt, authentic thank you. I'm sure your testimony will brighten a lot of people's days as they look for different paths forward. Thank you, Casey. All right. Thank you, Katie.